All right, hey guys, OFD checking in here, and I got a new watch I wanted to show you guys. It's actually this watch here on the left-hand side. Also in the video here, I have my original 7548 that I picked up in 1982. Bought that in the summer of 1982. At the time, I was only 12 years old. Put the watch on layaway at a local jewelry shop. If you guys aren't familiar with what layaway was back then, it was you put 10% down and you came in and you made payments till you paid off your purchase. And generally that was 90 days. I think sometimes with bigger purchases you could go up to 6 months. But anyways, at the time it was $250. I was 12 years old. It took me pretty much the whole summer to save up that money doing work and odd jobs to be able to buy this watch. So I still have it to this day. The reason it's in perfect shape is I had a local jeweler go through this watch. He's a Seiko guy. He did put an aftermarket handset on it, and you guys can see by that second hand, the lollipop or the flying meatball, whatever you want to call it, is on the wrong end. But no problem. I had no problem with that with this handset. And I do love the way the watch came out. It's still got a little bit of lume because they cleaned up the dial, and also that new handset on it's got a little bit of lume. The one on the left-hand side is a 1979. It has no lume left whatsoever. It is dead as can be. But I picked this watch up recently. I was looking on eBay. And one of the reasons I did was because, and let me adjust the camera here, guys. One of the reasons I did was because I pulled this watch out of my watch box maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'd set it probably 6 months ago, and it blew me away because when I pulled it out, besides being off an hour from daylight savings time, the watch was perfectly dead nuts on, hitting dead zero, which I thought was really incredible. These 7548 movements, if you guys aren't familiar with them, they are based on the 6300 series Seiko at the time. So a little bit of history on the Seiko 7548. Originally produced, or they originally started making these as a first quartz dive watch, believe it or not, in 1978. This is a 79 model, so just a year after they started making these. And they ran through 1985. So it's interesting having a 1979 version here, a 1982 version here. And one of the things you'll notice right off is there's some differences in the writing on the dial. On the Seiko Quartz or the SQ versions, you'll see that there's the divers and the 150 meters, and you have the SQ. The SUA symbol, which is indicating the SUA factory is where these watches were put together, is actually over here at the 3 o'clock next to the date window, whereas the SUA logo is above 6 o'clock on the resist dial. And that's another thing you guys will notice here is in the writing. This is water 150M resist, where this is divers 150 meters. So it's neat having the comparative dials here next to each other so you can check them out. But as you guys can see with my original 1982, the dial was really, really cleaned up on this one. I mean, you can hardly see any patina or anything like that. I know the dial wasn't replaced because he did give me all the old parts back, including the bezel, the handset, the crystal. So if I did ever want to go back and make this look old again, I have all those original parts that I can pop back on it. So, but pretty interesting. But I really wanted to talk more about this watch. This watch I found on eBay. I'll leave the eBay seller's information down below in the description. But I just really liked everything about this watch when I saw it. The biggest sell for me was this faded, ghost faded bezel. It's faded to kind of a gray blue color. This was originally a black bezel on this watch, and it just really looks good. Now the crystal's been replaced on this watch, and surprisingly enough, for the price I paid for this watch, they actually sent me an additional crystal for the watch, which I thought was really nice. As advertised, is not polished, and I'm not an expert on that, but it doesn't look really polished at all. As a matter of fact, this looks less polished than mine that I had a jeweler check out. So I'm sure mine probably did get polished up and everything, but again, no problem for me since it's my watch. I grew up with it since I was a kid. But these are really, really cool watches for the money. And, you can get one of these things, that 5 jewel 7548 movement runs perfectly. It runs so good. This one I set it, I've had it for about, I'm going to say 2 weeks now, guys. Sorry, it took me a while to get it up here on the channel, but it's running perfect. It's running perfectly zero, and it's the same as my other 7548 I've had since I was a kid. The bezels on these, if you guys aren't familiar, are actually bidirectional, which I think is kind of cool. They click in really good, and this one probably has had the spring replaced because it is really, really moving very nicely. Surprisingly, this one has the lume pip in it. That's one of the first things that goes. It's a nice faded lume pip there. And then if I can get it up here just a little bit closer to the camera, you guys can see the wear on the hands. They've been cleaned up, but they definitely, have seen better days, and you can see that little black spots there on the lume plots, which is really interesting because this watch at one point developed those same kind of little black spots. Now I'm not sure, if the jeweler goes through and just cleans those off, or if they, reapply, paint over those. I'm not really sure, but pretty cool. I'm really excited with this new piece, this new addition to the collection, and it's on an original strap, not the original strap, but if you guys ever want the original with the straight ribs here, that's the part number you're going to look for. That's the Seiko DAL1BP 22 millimeter strap. But I got to be honest with you guys. I've been wearing the snot out of this watch. I really enjoy it. There's a lot of 7548s out there on eBay and on the internet at really good prices. You can usually find these right around $300 or sometimes even less. Check them out. Make sure they don't look like they've been torn apart. This one had pretty much pictures of everything. The picture with the case back off so you could see the movement. It did have a brand new battery put in it. And like I said, it's got a new crystal on it. So for me, this watch is going to be a great everyday watch. It is a vintage watch, so it's not a watch I'm going to wear in the water right now because I don't know anything about the seals on it. But you can buy a brand new seal kit for this watch for about just under $30 for a good seal kit if you want to have that done and put in. That includes the gasket for the crystal, so that's going to be a little bit of work and probably need some professional help doing that. But as far as the gasket for your crown and the gasket for your case back, those are easy enough to change if you're not worried about doing that crystal. But anyways, guys, this is my new Seiko 7548 from 1979. Didn't show you guys the case back there, but you can check that out if you want to verify by that serial number. And as you can see, it's interesting because they have the little spot for the battery changes. And generally back then, the batteries lasted about 3 years. And you can see it looks like they had this set for a battery change in 1982, which makes sense with this being a 1979 watch. So, all right, guys, I'm a Seiko lover. If you guys are Seiko lovers, give us a thumbs up down there at the bottom. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Seiko watch is. And thanks for tuning in. If you've not subscribed to the OFD channel yet, please do. Please do. Thanks, guys.